So, how am I supposed to stay calm when people are getting in my face? I have prepared thousands of witnesses for trial, and that was one of their most frequent questions. And you probably have the same question. Someone's getting in your face, someone's riling you up, the pressure is on, and you want to know how to stay calm under pressure. I'm going to share 3 keys that I taught all of those witnesses that worked for them that can work for you so that you can stay calm when things seem very, very intense. My name is Heather Hansen. I was a trial attorney for decades, and I have taught thousands of witnesses how to communicate, how to speak to juries, ask for what they want, a win, and get it. And now I help people like you get your wins with better communication. And today I'm going to share 3 ways that you can stay calm when things are very intense. The first way is to force a pause. I used to tell my witnesses that they had to pause after every single question to allow me time to object. It wasn't really true. I knew enough to object before the question was finished, and I certainly could have slipped an objection in before they answered. But I wanted my witnesses to force a pause. When they thought that I needed that second or so to object, it gave them a second or so to respond instead of reacting, to calm down. Sometimes they would take a deep breath in that pause. Sometimes they would purposefully think about, is she going to object during that pause? That little bit of time made a huge difference between responding and reacting. I did it for myself as well. In my cases, the opposing attorney always got to go first. I was a defense attorney. And they would say terrible things about my witnesses and my clients. And I could feel my body reacting when their witnesses would tell lies about my witnesses and my clients. And the temptation would be, in those moments of pressure, to stand up or freak out or throw my paper or shake my head. But the courtroom rules wouldn't allow for that. There was a forced pause because I wasn't allowed to respond until the other side was done. And that's a wonderful thing. Because if I had reacted in the moment, I would not have been as set and strategic. I would not have been as calm in my tone of voice. I would not have been in my queen energy, I like to call it. And I would not have been as effective. And my witnesses, when they forced that pause and took that one little moment between the question or the attack and their response, they were able to get back into their king or queen energy as well. And so will you. So the first key is to force a pause. Now, what do you do to make that happen? You could imagine that someone needed the opportunity to object. You could find the time to take a deep breath. Or you could do what I'm going to talk about next, which is the next key, which is Jin Shin. So, the second key to staying calm under pressure is using this beautiful Japanese art of acupressure called Jin Shin. I first learned about Jin Shin at the Miyamo Spa in Sedona, Arizona. Amazing spa. And at that spa, I went to a Jin Shin practitioner. And she taught me that in Jin Shin, there are different parts of the body that correspond with different emotions or different illnesses. And she taught me one set of holds, they're called, that I will never forget. And it's all about your hand. So let me preface this by saying that when I was little, I was a thumb sucker. So this made so much sense to me. The thumb is an anxiety pressure point in Jin Shin. So if you are in those moments of high pressure and you're feeling super anxious about the pressure, all you have to do is grab onto your thumb with your other hand and allow that to slow you down. You want to really feel the pressure of your hand on your thumb. You want to feel the blood sort of pumping in your thumb. Allow it to force the pause and give you that moment to calm things down. This came very naturally for me. I actually found that before I learned about Jin Shin, when I was on trial, I would often be holding my thumb while I was waiting to cross-examine a witness or to put one of my witnesses on. And then after I learned Jin Shin, I used it before I did a television hit. I would be grabbing my thumb as I was waiting or in the makeup chair. And before I would go on for a big keynote, I might grab my thumb to just calm myself down and ease my anxiety. Now, for those of you that don't feel so anxious, that you might feel more fearful or angry during those moments of chaos or the moments of high pressure, there are other parts of your hand that work for you. So in Jin Shin, it spells out fast. Your index finger is for fear. Your middle finger, very appropriately, is for anger. Your ring finger is for sadness. And your pinky finger is for trying too hard. I think it's really interesting that fear and anger are next to each other because usually fear leads to anger. And when people are freaking out, they are usually actually afraid. But there have been times where I have used Jin Shin and held both of those fingers under the table when I'm in a fight with my significant other or with a family member because I'm afraid and I'm angry. And just applying pressure to those fingers can slow things down and allow me to be a little bit more calm. Now, I learned about Jin Shin and Sedona, but Alexis Brink is actually the premier voice on this in New York City. I interviewed her on my podcast. I'll put a link to that below so that you can get more information on Jin Shin if you want it. She also wrote a beautiful book on Jin Shin. I'll put a link to that in the comments as well. So, the first key to staying calm in moments of pressure is to force a pause. And however you want to do that, you might imagine that there's an attorney who needs to object after the other person makes a statement or asks a question. You might want to take a deep breath, or you might want to use the second key, which is Jin Shin, those holds on your hand. And the third key, I talk about this all the time, focus on tone of voice. Tone of voice is magic. That's why I talk about it all the time. But when it comes to moments of high pressure, when you focus on tone of voice, you can really step back into your king or queen energy. If you focus on the other person's tone of voice, you might hear fear, which may make you feel a little bit either empathy or control over the situation. You might hear anger, which is another form of fear, which could give you some empathy or some control over the situation. You might hear sadness. And just the act of trying to hear that emotion in tone of voice is going to calm your nervous system. It's going to distract you a little from your own anger, your own frustration, your own anxiety, and that will allow you to remain calm under pressure. The other way to focus on tone of voice is to focus on your own. You certainly do not want your tone of voice to reflect your anxiety, frustration, fear, and way too often it does. I often say that you take the throne when you own your tone. If you want to step into your queen energy and king energy and rise above the storm, the chaos, the emotion around you, focus on your tone of voice. It is a practical way to sort of imagine that you are taking control back from the situation. And you will recognize when your tone of voice is out of control, feeling very emotional, feeling very harried or stressed or anxious or frustrated or bitter. And then you can slow it down. When I talk about tone of voice, I'm combining all of the aspects. True musicians and singers will say there's a difference between pitch and tone and timbre. There's lots of different aspects to your tone. When I talk about tone, it's the umbrella over all of that. And your tone reflects what you are feeling. So if you focus on your tone, you may change your feelings. And if you change your feelings, your tone will change. So, three very easy keys for you to handle some very uneasy situations and to stay calm under pressure. The first one is to force the pause. The second is to use that art of Jin Shin. And the third is to focus on tone of voice. I share more of these on my channel, so subscribe or like, and please in the comments, let me know any questions you have about this topic or other communication topics, and I will be sure to answer them. In the meantime, have a good day and take good care.